Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
All right, before we begin the official agenda, I want to read a statement. As chairman of the Cleveland City School Board of Education, I'm committed to running an orderly and efficient meeting, treating everyone with respect. Board members will be provided equal voice for all matters and should communicate through the director of schools for addressing his staff. Reminders to parents in the community: Board of Education policies can be found on the clevelandschools.org website. When there, you just simply click on the menu and select Policy Manual under the Board of Directors section. Our meetings are not public forum. However, the board has made accommodations for you to address the board via School Policy 1.404, which has the requirements for you to do so. Board members have the option to request additional time as we vote or as we discuss things. Just wanted to make sure you guys remember that. So now we're just going to move along with our agenda. First thing on the agenda is our consent agenda, and this is up for discussion. Is there anything from the board members that we want to take off the consent agenda? All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as provided. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so noted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, 100% approval. All right, next on the agenda, we have the director's update.
All right. Well, first off, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see this room packed out, at least for the first few minutes of our meeting tonight. And starting off, the director's update is one that I think is going to be very popular amongst the student population out here, and that is schools are closed tomorrow. So tomorrow is election day, and schools are closed except for our professional staff. Our teachers and staff will be in the office and doing professional development work and such things. So tomorrow's election day. We look forward. Some of our schools are used as election sites, so by state law, we do close on those days. Tomorrow night, we do have a third grade parent meeting. Third grade parents have been communicated to about this several times, and we want to make sure we communicate about tonight as well. That's 6 p.m. right here tomorrow night. For parents that can't make it, we will be live streaming that. We will have a room here that will also be for Spanish only. So we want to make sure we're accommodating all families. We will be recording the Spanish-only version of that and also putting that on our website for folks that need access to that. So that's all, again, tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here. I had the opportunity a few weeks back to attend the West Virginia Education Alliance. That is a group that meets in West Virginia, and they asked us to come, Cleveland City Schools, to be there specifically to learn more about the work we're doing in career and technical education, as well as our Pathways program that really creates a seamless transition from elementary to middle to high, and then from high school on to whatever stage of life might come next. And it was a great opportunity. I received a letter from them that said more than 200 business, education, legislative, and community leaders attended the summit. Your policy presentation reinforced the summit theme by showing what Tennessee has made possible to grow talent pipelines on behalf of our state's students. The feedback from the summit has been overwhelmingly positive, and then it went into some comments. So it really was an honor to be asked to represent our state, but also represent our school system and to share with West Virginia the great work that's being accomplished right here in Cleveland City Schools. So proud of that, and we've had several of those folks reach out and maybe coming for some visits to see the work that we're doing at the middle and high school in that area. We do have at this time a class size future impact task force that's underway. Dr. Elliott and Mr. Kaiser are leading that effort. Krista is on that committee as well, and as well as teachers and administrators from the district. A big part of that work is looking at what we need to do as far as our staffing ratios for the upcoming and future budget cycles. So the goals that goal was announced is to provide a report with recommendations for staffing classes in Cleveland City Schools with a consideration of variables that will have an impact on educating and equipping students with the academic, social, and emotional skills that are necessary. That should be it. There we go, bold point there. So what they're doing at this time is reviewing current data. In other words, going in and seeing what our data says today, exploring best practices from other school districts to see how they do this in other fast-growing districts, considering academic demands as well as scheduling, and then also setting future goals and more questions to answer. As you know, with more that you dig, the more questions come out usually. So that's a big part of the work that they're undertaking at this time. And really what we're doing is working toward making recommendations for the upcoming budget season. So we hope that this work will be wrapped up in the next few months so that when we get to January, February, and beyond, we'll have actionable data, actionable report to bring back and put into that budget cycle. And I look forward to the work. I know it's a lot of work at this time that's underway, but I think it's going to really benefit us as we look forward toward the future. Okay. Want to also celebrate. Our PE teachers did a fantastic job in the elementary schools of working to really pull off our elementary celebration of movement and multicultural night. So not only our PE teachers, but also our English as a second language group, just a phenomenal job. This was back in October. It was held at the high school, and all our elementary schools participated in the multicultural night. It was K through 12. But a fun night was had by a whole lot of people. That place was packed from the different folks I talked to that evening. They had a great time. And it was good to see our elementary kids involved in physical education and active, and their teachers participating with them. And our multicultural night was a big hit. And we had a lot of people that were involved in that and participated. So thank you to everyone who worked on that and participated and brought that to life. We also, last Friday, said goodbye to our visiting German students. Several of the high school students here probably know that we had our GAP kids here. The GAP is the German-American Partnership Program. We have a picture that I actually received today from part of that group that was thanking the school system. It said, Dr. Dyer, thank you very much for visiting. I did visit them at the corn maze, so that was fun out there. And the breakfast with the mayors. It was a wonderful time, a lot of fun. We're very thankful for the ongoing support for GAP, and we look forward to our relationship continuing, your GAP Exchange Group 2022. So at this point, they have gone back to Germany, and I think there may be something coming down the road about some students from our district possibly going to Germany to visit them over the summer, but we will see more about that as time progresses. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Tennessee Higher Education Commission's Momentum Building Year meeting. That's a mouthful. But that group, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, is working with SCORE to really think through the college going rate in Tennessee. During COVID times, the college going rate has fallen in our state. And really what they're trying to do is get that college going rate back up to 60% or higher. Right now it's around 52% in our state. It was higher than 60% prior to COVID, but during COVID times that has fallen off. So they're really working on that, but not just for students in high school, but also adults that may be able to return back to college and go back to school. So Tennessee Connect is something that is working toward that end, and look forward to working with the group to see what we can do here in Cleveland City Schools to help that number. So, Thanksgiving. It's almost here, and it's Thanksgiving lunchtime in our schools. I know this week we kick off with Blythe Bower having their meal days and lunch days for Thanksgiving. And then next week, I think it's Tuesday through Thursday, different schools are going to be doing that. So I encourage our students, I encourage families, I encourage school board members, and we can get you those dates and information. Go out and try our Thanksgiving lunches. The ladies and gentlemen that work in our cafeterias work extremely hard, and they do a great job, and I really encourage you to try their Thanksgiving meal before you try your own Thanksgiving meal. Then you can compare notes, and you might take some notes from them as well. But speaking of Thanksgiving, we do have Thanksgiving break coming, November 21st through the 25th, the Thanksgiving break for the district. We will be closed during that time. So again, students and staff, enjoy that week once it's here. It's not too terribly far away. So with that, that is my update for tonight. Any questions or thoughts?
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. I'm going to turn it right back over to Dr. Dyer because one of my personal favorite times on the agenda is spotlights.
Yes, and I'm pulling up a note real quick. So yeah, we have a lot to spotlight tonight, and this is fun. So I'm going to start off with our Cleveland Lady Raider volleyball team. They made history this season by winning the first state championship in program history. Not only was it their first state title in program history, it was the first state title in a female team sport in the history of Cleveland High School. Pretty impressive. With their 49-5 record, they set a volleyball program record and school record for most wins by any team in a single season in Cleveland High School history. And here's a quick little summary. They're ranked as high as number 12 in the nation and number 1 in the Tennessee by Max Preps. Battle of the Sunsphere champs finished 7-0 and beat teams with a combined 48 state titles. Tournament of Champions down in Alabama, they won that. They defeated nationally ranked Pope, Georgia in the final. So Tennessee can beat Georgia. Just wasn't in football. And they won the district, regional, and sectional and state championships with a perfect 9-0 record while going 27-0 in all sets. And I'll tell you what, that was a fun event to be in, to watch them work and beat up on the Collierville Dragons, where I came from. And it was good to see them get that victory. They were super excited, and we're very excited to have you here tonight. So congratulations to the team for winning the state title and all your accomplishments this year. For the volleyball team and coaches, if you could come up behind us here, we'd love to get a group picture with you, and the board members may have a few words to say to you as well. Just don't trip on anything. No injuries allowed. All right, you got to come up this way. Get pictures in a second. Before you get to the speaking time, you get to glad to. Is that good? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Scooch in as they form. All right. Hey, congratulations. Before you leave volleyball team, there may be some board members that want to congratulate you or say anything, so this is a good opportunity, board members, if you would like to say anything to our volleyball team, state championship volleyball team.
I'm very proud of y'all, showing Cleveland High.
Right.
Of course.
Congratulations on your state title and bringing it home for Cleveland. We recognize that it's not easy to do something like that, and we really appreciate you representing Cleveland. And congratulations once again.
And congratulations, you all set the bar now. So hopefully next year will be just as good, and we'll see you all again.
I'm just trying to match up some of these with some of the parents that I know in the back. So
Yeah, if you're a parent for volleyball, raise your hand and let us know where you are. That's huge. Well, good. Well, we're going to move to the next recognition, and this is our Cleveland. Oh, sorry, Carol.
That's okay. I was just, I would disappoint some people if I didn't say how proud I am of those kids who came from Yates and.
Of course.
So good to see them. Some of it I have to ask because they've changed so much since they were in kindergarten.
They grew up a little bit from kindergarten.
Real proud of you all.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to switch gears and congratulate another group. This is fun. Cleveland Middle School Ladies Soccer. If you would, please stand where you are first. We are extremely proud of our Lady Raiders from middle school and the work they put in this year, and their coaches and the family supports them along the way too. Our Lady Raiders were the winners of the CTAC Championship. Did I say that correctly? Okay. And we are proud of their work in going into soccer. Always fun to recognize our student athletes, and this group did a fantastic job, had a great season, and we're really proud of you. So, board members, do you want to say anything now that we can have them come up for a picture?
Well, I think it's wonderful that y'all are playing soccer. You may not believe this, but I played soccer in middle school. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, though.
I don't know how many of you are Yates kids, but I know several of you are. Congratulations.
Well, I can't say that I had any kids at Yates. However, I can say I do have one kid over on the team. So it's been exciting to see the growth that's happened with you guys and how well you guys gel together. You make us proud, and we appreciate you. Congratulations.
So now it's your turn to come back behind. If you would walk around that direction, we'd love to get a group picture with you all as well. And one of you has a trophy, so you have to stand up in the front. That's all the trophies. All right, we have one more group. We're going to let the soccer team get seated, and we're going to recognize one more group. Very proud of also our Cleveland Middle School boys tennis team. And they have won their championship for the season. So if our tennis team would stand real quick where you are and be recognized. Got a large contingency here. Congratulations. And board members, anything that you'd like to say to our tennis team?
I see several I had. Congratulations.
I'll just say that tennis is something you'll enjoy all your life. So I'm so glad that y'all are playing tennis. That's very good.
Congratulations, guys. Some of you I remember seeing when you were just 5 or 6 years old, but it's nice to see where you are today and the accomplishments that you guys have made. So congratulations again.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you to your coaches for coming tonight and supporting you through the year, and also the parents. Thank you. But this time, guys, if you want to come back here, you've got to take a picture as well. smiling. Okay. Oh, one more. Thanks. Now I'm going to say my line. Okay. I'll see what you do. Yeah. Good share. I'm sorry, what's that? 6, 7, 8. Yeah. All different sizes and shapes. Well, this is the ones who won the championship.
Wow. The way it all just emptied. Oh, I didn't even notice. Kelly. Can we get them all to move up?
It's a good thing we have thick skin.
Y'all need to come closer.
Thanks for standing around, guys. We appreciate you. So next on the agenda, we have a spotlight from a board member, Carolyn Ingram.
Next time we'll know to put you first before the students.
Right. Thank you for this opportunity to talk a little bit about me. I've been around so many years that many of you know a lot about me. But I was born in a little town up in Glade Spring, Virginia, about halfway between Bristol and Roanoke. It was there when I was in the first grade that I decided that I wanted to be a teacher. My first grade teacher was just she was like a grandmother to us. And I always felt so wanted, so loved, so cared for. And I thought, that's what I want to do when I grow up. So I started off by coming to Tennessee Wesleyan University. Now it was college then. I won't tell you what year. But I got my bachelor's there. Went on to start teaching in Atlanta, in DeKalb County. Taught there. Then I'm not going to tell you all the other schools because there's about 8 or 9 schools that I taught in Virginia, Tennessee, and Georgia. And I've loved every class I ever had, with maybe the exception of one. I taught middle school. And my son, Matt, many of you know, he was in the same grade, and I had 5th graders 24/7, and I thought I never want to see another 5th grade student or try to teach them. But my main emphasis was in early childhood, and we came to Cleveland in the early 90s, and I was teaching in Ottawa at that time, and Dr. Yates, who was my neighbor, said to me one day, you know, why don't you come to Cleveland City and teach? And I said, I don't know, I never thought about it, but what's open? So I went to Blythe Avenue as the parent-teacher coordinator. I was there for 1 year, and then I became principal there for 3 years. Then they started to talk about building Yates Primary. And I was in Florida on vacation and got a call from Dr. Yates to tell me that he was going to appoint me as the principal of not Yates Primary then, but of a plot of ground that we were getting ready to dig the first shovel of dirt the grand opening. But when he told me that, I hyperventilated, and I thought, to start a new school, I don't know whether I can do it or not, but I told him I would try. So I stayed at Yates Primary for 25 years, the best years of my life. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I've always said that I felt I had the best of all. I had the children, I had the teachers, and I had the parents. And today, if I died tonight, I would die knowing that I had done the best I could, and I felt like that I had served the children in that area the best that I could. In addition to sort of that's my career as far as education, but I have two sons. One, most of you know, is assistant principal at Cleveland Middle School. My other son is sort of floats around most of the time trying to find himself. And I have both of those boys graduated from Cleveland High School, had two grandchildren that graduated, and then I have one grandchild who graduated from that school on the other side, but I have forgiven her for going over there. When I came to Cleveland and became involved in education even more than ever, I started the Tennessee Reading Association chapter here. I was on the Tennessee Textbook Commission for 6 years. I became president of the Tennessee Reading Association and was also on the board for the International Reading Association. So I spent a lot of time in educational things. And then when I retired, I thought, you know, I might like to be on the school board. And so my brother, my twin brother, who was a principal and a superintendent in Virginia, I talked to him one day, and he said, Carolyn, why in the world would you want to go, after all these years, why would you want to be on the school board? I said, Bobby, when you get chalk dust in your veins, you have to go on and do what you feel like you need to do. So I ran for the school board after I retired, and have been on the school board now for 7 years. And then 3 years ago, I was asked to run for the state school board as a part of TSBA. And I ran and became a part of that group too. Now I say all of this to say that, as you know, education has been my life. I've loved everything about it. But when I came on the school board, I saw a different side of it. I crossed over and sat on the other side of the desk. But whatever I've done because I felt it was best for children. And that has been my philosophy and will be forever. As to anything we do, it has to be for what's best for children. And so I have loved my years here working on the board. It's been such a pleasure to work with every one of you. And I did a lot of traveling around when I was working with the Reading Association and different things. And I always came back and said, Cleveland City is the best school system there is around across the state. And even when I was working nationally, I just never found a school system that was any better than Cleveland City Schools. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful that I came to Cleveland and have been a part of this community for many years now.
Thanks, Carolyn. All right, next on the agenda, we have employee bonus.
Okay. So, board, you have a memo here from Cindy, and it says, in response to your request, she's writing this to me, I propose that the following bonus be paid to all Cleveland City Schools employees, full-time and part-time, as a separate payroll on November 18th, 2022. The certified staff amount would be $750, non-certified staff $712.50. The actual stipend amount may differ in some cases so that each employee will net approximately $500. The total cost of the system will be approximately $691,000 and will need to be amended into the 2022-23 general fund budget. Fund balance will be used to pay for the bonus since this is a recurring expenditure. So my recommendation to the board tonight is to approve this, and that, again, each employee will net approximately $500 once taxes, retirement, et cetera, are taken out of that total bonus amount.
May we make a motion?
Yes, I entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any negatives or opposed? All right, it passes.
That's fantastic. Thank you all very much. I think that's something that is very much needed and very much warranted. Our teachers, our staff, bus drivers, et cetera, they've worked extremely hard, and anything we can do to make this season a little better for them, I think the better. So thank you all for approving that.
Before we move on, are there any comments that you guys want to make, share?
Well, I just wanted to thank Cindy for figuring out a way to get it to them a little bit sooner, so thank you for the work you did for that.
Yes. Any other comments? All
We
right.
can't spend their money any better.
Right.
I guess all we could say is spend it locally.
Right.
Yeah,
There we
that's
go.
a good idea.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have first reading of policies. We have 4.200, 4.301, and we have the removal of 4.502 because it's a duplicate, and then 4.60. So I'm going to talk about those here. The let's see here, let me do it in order. 4.2, curriculum development. Some of the updates included a change for the current role that we have now for Director of Academics, referring to that role. This is a new paragraph that I'll read here. I'll start on line 4. The curriculum shall include those subjects and topics required by state and federal laws and regulations. It shall foster respect and appreciation of the cultural diversity found in our country and an awareness of the rights, duties, and responsibilities of each individual as a member of a pluralistic society. We're striking the paragraph on lines 13 through 16, 21 through 22, and then adding additional references for this particular policy at the bottom. All right? Any questions or comments about that?
I'm assuming these changes are to be in line with the state law,
That is
and
correct.
TSBA has signed off on these as being in line with our policies and state.
That's correct, yes. These are recommendations from TSBA based on updates to either state law or State Board of Education regulations. Yes.
And just as a side note, for those that are interested, the references at the bottom of the policy are referencing the actual state laws. So if you ever have some leisure time and you want to spend some time reading some interesting stuff, you can go there. So point that out there. All right, the next one, 4.301, interscholastic athletics. Some changes here. Instead of using the word sexes, we're using genders, and then a paragraph was added. Student athletes shall only be allowed to participate in athletic activities or events that align with the student's sex indicated on his or her original birth certificate. The director of schools designee shall require the parent guardian to provide the student's original birth certificate prior to participation in any interscholastic athletics. If the original birth certificate is not available or does not indicate the student's sex at the time of birth, the parent guardian shall provide medical documentation showing evidence of the student's sex as birth. Adding or changing the line, starting with line 13, striking the principal designee shall to the principal designee shall accompany an athletic team on trips. And then on line 21, adding the director of schools designee shall develop a code of conduct for all coaches to follow in order to ensure the health and safety of athletes. Lines 24, 25, 26, 27 are being taken out, as well as 29 through 33, as well as on the next page, line 1 through 4. And then there's an entire section added for insurance and physical examinations, scheduling conflicts, and severe weather. And then some changes for prohibition against hazing. So I'm not going to read the full paragraphs there because those are pretty lengthy and you guys have these. Are there any questions for this particular policy?
I see that we somehow articulated a difference between sex and gender, and is that something that the statute is?
It is. In
Clarified.
the statute, it refers to genders, and that's why the word sexes is marked out, and genders is moved into that line.
Is there a distinction between the two that the statute makes in some way that we should be aware?
I could find out for you, through our legal counsel, and have that to you before the next reading of this. That's something we can easily do.
Politics is what it is, and you never
Yeah,
know what
right.
those
But
really mean.
I'll find
So-
out for you and make sure we get that answer to you.
All right, so for policy 4.5021, we're striking that one as it is duplicate. That entire policy, we're removing it from our manual. Any questions, comments? All right. Next policy, 4.601. We're striking part of line 1 and all the way through line 3. We're adding this line: the director of schools designee shall develop a reporting procedure that includes how parents can access this information online. We're also striking line 10 and 11, adding the paragraph: the teacher shall notify parents no later than the third reporting period of retention is being considered. In addition to the regular progress reports, principals and teachers are encouraged to confer with parents, guardians on the educational process of their children. Teachers shall consult with parents, guardians of students who are working at an unsatisfactory level or whose performance shows a sudden deterioration. Parents and guardians shall be notified by the teacher as early in the school year as possible if the retention of the student is being considered. Striking the entire section for driver's license revocation. Striking paragraphs starting with line 32 through 33 on page 1, and then line 1 through 4 on line 1 through 6 on page 2, and adding this paragraph: at least 2 times during the school year, conferences shall be scheduled in which parents, guardians, and teachers may discuss any pertinent problems or other matters of concern regarding the development and education of each student. These scheduled conferences shall not use any portion of 180 days of classroom instruction. The director of schools shall be responsible for scheduling and coordinating system-wide conferences, and then conferences shall be physically accessible to all students and parents and guardians. And it does have the noted references for changes or referencing the law there. All right, so those are the first readings for policies for this month. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept as read.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any further questions, concerns?
I was gonna ask about the driver's license revocation thing. Is that because like they wouldn't allow you to do that anymore?
Yes, the state law was changed this year, actually, this past year. And it used to be that if you fell behind in your grades, I'm simplifying this out, but if you fell behind in grades, a school district could actually apply to the state for your driver's license to be revoked from you. But that is no longer the law. The law has changed. But I will say your parents still can write to Department of Safety and have that revocation take place. But the school system is no longer empowered to do that.
Got it.
Good question.
Any others? All right, so we're moving to the next agenda item, which is about capital improvement plan.
Okay, so we discussed this at the board retreat, and as you see here, there are 2 pieces to this. One is a project that we have in process, the windows and renovation and replacement work at Stewart and at the high school. The bid came in a little higher than expected, so we're asking that the new amount of $211,855 be approved. And we also have the proposed projects that has been discussed, and that includes Arnold Elementary parking lot renovation, $150,000. Arnold Elementary kitchen replacement of the oven, the steamer, the serving table, and flooring for around $110,000. Cleveland High School replacement of the walk-in freezer for $60,000. Blythe Bower, Candies Creek, Cherokee, Mayfield, Ross, and Yates Elementary playground improvement of surfaces and borders over 2 years at $220,000. Outdoor classroom furniture for elementary schools at $50,000. Delivery passenger van at $70,000. The middle school renovation of CTE classrooms, technology classrooms at $190,000. And at Mayfield, permanent boiler at $400,000, which comes out at $1,250,000. That amount is paid for through sales tax and also some various grants that we have. And that's the total we have at this point for you. If there are any significant changes to that we need to come back later with additional price information or approval, we will be doing that.
And so we can assume that this is a recommendation from you, Dr. Dyer, because this did not come through the site committee?
Right, this did not come through the site committee, so this is a recommendation from me, yes.
So I'd like to entertain a motion for the recommendation for the plan as so stated.
So moved.
So moved, all right. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it moves forward. So comments? Questions? Everybody's good? All right. Next on the agenda, we have strategic plan focus for technology.
Okay. I'm going to ask Dr. Raper to come to the microphone, and he's going to walk you through a presentation on the proposed 3-year technology strategic plan that will need board approval to move forward.
As I come to present on technology, I'd like to apologize for the screen issues. I had to restart my computer. Good evening, board. How are you?
Good.
So you have a paper. I'm going to turn my mic down. You have a paper copy of the plan before you, but I do have a presentation I'll go through, but the entire document is here. And I would note that anybody in the public who wanted to see it, it is available at clv.city/techplan. So that's clv.city/techplan, the proposed strategic plan for tonight. The tech plan was developed by convening a steering committee. The steering committee consisted of representatives from parents, students. We had teacher representatives, staff, administration, district, and then Mr. Nate Tucker from the school board was on the steering committee. And so we started out this plan by establishing current conditions. Where are we? What's the current state of technology in Cleveland City Schools? Once we had that, we went to establish needs. The original intent was to just have our steering committee talk to different stakeholders and kind of get that information of here's what we need. But as we went through that process, we found out that we needed a more comprehensive needs assessment. And so we did a survey of all stakeholders, and we had several results. And in your copy of this, we do have the summary results there. Those start on page 9. Once we got our survey back, we looked at the needs that our stakeholders were telling us, and from that, we established goals based on those needs. From there, we looked at how to evaluate the goals, and then finally, we published a draft of the plan, and then tonight it's being presented to the school board. Whenever we looked at the whenever we looked at the goals, there were 3 or 4 domains that really stood out. And so those were infrastructure and operations, or how we actually make the technology work. Teaching and learning, which is why we're here as a school system. Security and safety, so both how do we keep bad actors out and how do we keep our students safe. And then efficiency and effectiveness, how well can we do our job. So each goal in the strategic plan falls into one of these 4 domains. And so In your plan, you'll see each goal spelled out in a whole lot more detail. But there's a summary sheet at the end that I'm going to kind of go through on page 28. And so this briefly shows all of our goals in the plan with a timeline of when we hope to have them implemented. So domain A was infrastructure and operations. So how do we make the technology work? And we have 3 goals spread over 3 years for this domain. The first goal is to upgrade all the access points in our district. The current access points are functioning, but they are at the end of their life. And upgrading to Wi-Fi 6 is going to give us better coverage in classrooms and help us serve our students and other people in the buildings like teachers better. Goal 2 is to upgrade the infrastructure in our AOB campus. It is the only campus where we're not providing 10 gigabit service to each school. It's provided to one place, and then gigabit goes to our 2 schools. So we want to upgrade that before it becomes a necessity to get ahead of that. And then finally, we want to upgrade uninterruptible power supplies that help us to make sure connectivity stays online during brief power outages. Because if the power blinks, switches go down, servers go down, we're out for 10 to 15 minutes, even if it's just a 20-second blip. Are there any questions about domain A? Domain B is teaching and learning. So how do we most effectively teach students content standards, the classroom practices that enable teachers to better teach with technology? Through surveying our constituents, we heard a resounding, hey, we need to do a better job of telling parents about the resources that are available to them. How do I access my students' Canvas? How do I get onto my students' Google Classroom? If I want to help my student with their homework, how do I do it? How do I check their grades? And so we're looking at giving better parent resources that enable the parent on demand whenever they need to, hey, how do I do this? We'll have a consolidated resource place for them, but also giving those trainings at times when we have parents in the building, such as family nights and parent nights. Goal 5 is limiting digital distractions. And this is something we heard again and again from teachers. We give a device to every student, and it does amazing things in the classroom for changing learning. But sometimes the device can also become a distraction. And so we've heard from our teachers that I need better resources from the district on limiting those distractions to make sure my students stay focused on the objective of the day. And then finally, reinforce blended learning. The phrase we heard here from stakeholders was, I want to lean into blended learning. So emphasizing that technology has a place, and technology can definitely revolutionize learning, but we're not leaving behind pencil and paper. And so the phrase I always use is good teaching is good teaching. If the best way to teach is with technology, you should absolutely teach that way. If the best way to use is teaches without technology, then that's great too. And so making sure that we're training our teachers with a job-embedded professional development on being able to select the best times to use technology and the most effective ways to include it. Any questions about the teaching and learning domain goals? Domain C is security and safety. And we want to both protect the information that we have stored. We want to make sure student data stays safe, make sure employee data stays safe, protect our infrastructure from outages. But we also want to protect our students here. And so we have 4 goals that fall within this domain that span across 3 years. And the first is coming up very soon, if this plan is approved. In the spring of 2023, we plan to enable multi-factor authentication for all staff accounts. What this would do is help secure our Google accounts so that teachers and staff and administrators are not going to be able to easily have their passwords compromised. Password compromisation is one of the top ways that bad actors get into organizations. And this extra layer really helps keep out those bad people from the accounts. Our Power School, our most sensitive data, is protected by Google accounts. So adding a 2-factor authentication here would help secure that data as well. Goal 8 has to do with COPPA and integration review. Right now, Cleveland City Schools is putting it off on the teacher to ensure that the apps and the stuff they use in their classroom are COPPA compliant. And we want to lift that burden from the teacher by making sure that the apps and tools that teachers may be selecting for their classroom are following COPPA and other laws. They're doing a great.
Can you explain what COPPA is, just so
Sorry,
everyone's on the same page?
Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act. It specifically refers to children under the age of 13 and how their data is stored and used online. And so, for example, if a student creates an account, the website that they created on should be COPPA compliant. And so instead of making the teacher have to check that and have to worry about that in addition to all the lesson planning they're doing, going ahead and vetting those sites for them and then publishing an approved list that the teachers can use. Goal 9 has to do with creating a disaster recovery plan. Cleveland City Schools has a resilient infrastructure. So for example, we have our primary infrastructure at Blythe Bower. We have resiliency at Candies Creek of almost all the same servers and stuff. So if we were to have a catastrophic technological loss in either one of those locations, we would still function. However, there's no formal disaster recovery plan that is in place, that is written down on paper. And so it's going to be important going forward to make sure that we've thought through that. We've thought through all the ways that we can make sure that technological operations continue in the case of a total technological disaster. And then finally, goal 10 has to do with systems authorization. We are not a small district. We're a good-sized district, and we have access to a lot of programs that need to be protected. And so right now, our process is on paper, and it's getting authentication from different employees to make sure that they have access to the stuff that they need and don't have access to the stuff that they don't need. But this goal has to do with streamlining that process to make it easier for the end user and to have that easy visibility into what programs that the staff members do have access to. Any questions about Domain C? And then finally, Domain D is efficiency and effectiveness, or how we do our jobs better. One thing we heard through our stakeholders is that we've put a lot of training into teachers to make sure that teachers effectively know how to use these online tools. We've not done a great job of directing enough professional development at our staff who aren't necessarily certified teachers. And so that goes to paraprofessionals who are in the classroom working with students, of making sure that they know how to use these apps that are being used in the classroom as well, all the way to front office staff to make sure, are we leading our front offices in the most efficient and effective way possible? And so we already have some planned through academics that we're going to do in the spring, but really being intentional at working with our non-certified staff as well to make sure they also get technology professional development. And then the final goal is kind of linked to that. We provide devices for students. We provide devices for certified teachers. We don't currently provide devices across the board for non-certified staff. And so some schools have went through and purchased devices for some of their non-certified staff, think parapros who are in the classroom, but that's not consistent across the board. And so we want to make sure that we can also provide those professionals who do a fantastic job of teaching in our classrooms as well with the devices that they need. Any questions or comments about the technology plan or any of its goals? Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question. Is there a way for teachers to record a lecture or a lesson and students be able to pull it back up and watch it from home?
Yeah, sure. We provide a couple of different ways to do that. And it's something that we hit on from time to time. It was really hit on during COVID. But yeah, we definitely have a few ways for our teachers to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be very helpful, because sometimes if you can hear something that you weren't sure of, you could listen to it again. I think it'd be very
Sure.
helpful. Or parents could listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and help
Yeah,
their
so being
students.
able to engage the parent whenever they're at home as well on what was taught academically during the day, or if you're absent, it can also be a powerful tool.
I would just add with that, there are some possible FERPA things we need to think through as far as privacy of students who are in the classroom along with that particular student. So that's something that it's very capable with technology, but I would want to make sure we, engage our legal counsel just to make sure we cover all of our bases with that. I know what you're talking about, and I think it's a great idea. I would just want to make sure we cover all of our bases before we ever started that.
I think the focus would be on what the teacher was saying, not reflecting on the students.
Yeah, definitely referring it to legal counsel. In general, our rule is if it is being recorded and any student is in it, it can only be used with that classroom, and it could not be used with any future classes or other classes going on concurrently that aren't in that class.
Cody,
Yes.
what have you done so far for certifying or working with your non-certified staff as far as working with them in technology? Have you had classes, or what has been done for them?
So this has been a gap for the system. However, we already have a professional development scheduled for the spring where we're going to offer some targeted trainings that kind of think elementary, these are the tools we use, so targeted trainings for those staff, high school, middle school, these are the ones we use, and then office staff, so trying to differentiate it as well. And so the first training should happen in the spring. I think there's actually 2 planned. And then going on from there, we hope to be more proactive in those. And even leveraging our Blade facilitators who are there to do the job-embedded professional development for instruction, they can also be utilized to help out with the non-certified staff as well.
I know they'll appreciate that, because so many times they didn't have access at home, some of them to computers, and it was a problem. So I'm glad we're doing something.
Jody?
I just have a question about the disaster recovery plan. I mean, is there one now, and then what you're doing is going to replace it or improve it, or what? I mean,
There's not a
that's
formal plan.
2024 and 2025, so.
There's not a formal plan on paper. We have the resiliencies in place. It was actually one of the first things I did whenever I got into this position was to look at that. And so we've built up a resilient infrastructure, but what we haven't done is develop the 30-page formal plan that's going to really think through every scenario.
I see.
And I would imagine there's some equipment we also need to look at purchasing along the lines of that.
Okay, thanks.
So for these goals and actions that are going to require a cost, are you anticipating that those costs are going to be absorbed through your regular operating budget, or are these going to need to be line items on our budget that we need to consider when we're thinking about our upcoming budgets? Do we have projections on that?
Sure. So at this time, this is the plan to make the plan. So this is where we're going to go. So then we start looking at what do we need to have in place for a disaster recovery. And at that time, that's whenever we'll start looking at costs. I would imagine a lot of these things will be able to be absorbed within the regular budget. For example, the uninterruptible power supplies for goal 3, that's in my head plan for the regular budget. But if we get into disaster recovery planning and realize we have this gaping hole that we have to fill, it would depend in that place. So this is kind of the plan to make the plan that would bring budgets and things like that into play.
Okay. What qualifies exactly as a disaster, and would some of these disasters be covered by insurance to help us recover costs?
So the disaster recovery in this case would be continuity of operations. So ensuring that we can get technical operations back up. So let's say, for whatever reason, the server room at Blythe Hour flooded and we lost a core infrastructure. And so we lost that equipment there. Every school around the district is relying on infrastructure that is there. So this is more thinking about ensuring that we have resiliency to not take down operations, technology operations because of the disaster. As far as equipment recovery, I would imagine there would be insurance involved, but I'm not the expert to speak on that.
Any other comments or questions?
So I'd just like some clarification, because if we are approving the strategic plan, my concern is if we don't know the budget impacts, are we going to be able to honor the plan if things come up? Or are we going to modify the plan? You know, most of the time we're held to the strategic plan, and I'd like to be able to see some projections or some way of knowing what we're signing, what we're voting on, what we're agreeing to.
Yeah.
Financially.
Yes, financially.
Speak to that.
Well, what we could do, I mean, if you would like to see that, we could take, a pause on this right now, bring it back in December with some preliminary figures on what that would look like. And that would take some homework on Dr. Raper's part to do that. And they would be preliminary, but that would be better than nothing. So I understand your point, and that's something we can do to come back to this at the December meeting.
I imagine we'd probably want to say, what is our ceiling amount that we can afford?
Yeah. So does that sound good to you as far as that goes?
Yes, with the caveat of like the disaster recovery plan. I don't actually know what we need yet, but I can try to get together.
We can
preliminary
come
ideas
together
what we
with some
needed.
ballpark figures, talk to some others who've done this work too, so.
Well, and that's just if I'm understanding correctly. I just, if this is a tentative plan that would be something we would adjust as we go, then that's a different story. But if we're saying this is our strategic plan and this is what we're going to do, I think we need to kind of have because I have no idea what would be involved with some of this equipment and infrastructure type stuff.
Yeah. So if you're in agreement with that, then what we can do is pull together in December and come back with some facts and figures, make sure that you're comfortable with that before we move forward with a vote on this plan.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay. I don't think we need to vote on that.
Okay, good. Well, we'll come back and do this in December. You won't have to hear the full spill again, but we'll make sure that's covered and that you have some basic information that you need there.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you very much.
Cody, let me say, I think you and your committee have done a great job
I
in
agree.
putting this together.
Well,
So it's,
yeah, and I totally
can
agree.
imagine.
I totally agree. That they put a lot of work. Thank you, Nate, for your help on that and for all those that participated in that. And we'll get to the finish line come in December.
Fantastic. Great, guys. Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, we have the student representatives update.
Okay, so bear with me because I have a lot to report this time. I'm gonna start with some sports. Hold on. Okay, so first I wanted to talk about our bowling team. They're only in their second year and they've already beaten Bradley, as they should, and the number 2 team in the region. They've also set numerous records, and they're gonna send students to individual regionals in Smyrna. I believe that's how you
Smyrna,
pronounce it.
Tennessee, yes.
Smyrna, Tennessee. Yeah. So I'm very proud of them for being such a new team and yet doing the best they've got, bro. Next, we have a lot of things going on in sports. So the volleyball season ended. They did amazing. I'm extremely proud of the girls for being the first female sports team at CHS to win a state championship. I was beaming when I heard about that. Girls soccer also finished their season as 4th in the district. And then they finished with a 10-7 record. I think Pollyanna, Macy, and Ashlyn were recognized as the first team, all-district team members, and then Leah on the second all-district team. Football season ended with a 6-4 record. That season was very fun. I don't even know how many games I went to. It was most of them. Golf. The girls' golf team qualified at the regional tournament to compete in Seviersville, along with Trip Hall from the boys' team. Cross country, both of the boys and girls' teams qualified for the TSSAA state tournament. Owen Clemens got a state championship, and he's the first 9th grader in D1 AAA history. He's also considered the best freshman in the entire country. And that is amazing that he came from our school. And he's just a freshman, too. He's got 4 years. Our band, they won several competitions. Their last competition was this Saturday. They got the bronze medal in their silver division, and percussion got class championship. And the competition before this last competition at Ray County, they won overall grand champion along with all the other amazing awards that they got. Next up, we have other events that are going on in, or have went on in CHS. Seniors finally finished their ACTs. I would say that we're free, but we still have applications to fill out. Students are also being introduced to a new online tutoring program. More is coming up with that. I don't know too much information about it, but I've heard it spreading around the school. I've heard like sighs of relief from teachers, because that's just amazing. And yeah, I'll wait until more information comes out. We had a blood drive Friday. We have one usually like every semester. Plenty of donors showed up. I was one of the people that would recruit. Like I would walk into like a bunch of different RISE classes and ask, and it just like eased my soul not standing there and having awkward silence and no one raising their hand after asking if anyone wanted to donate. So I'm proud that we had a lot of donors. The same Friday, we also had Chamber of Commerce had like a thing where you could donate $1 to wear a hat to school in order to support Habitat for Humanity. I did in fact donate, and I pulled out my umbrella hat, wore it all 7 hours. CHS also hosted a multicultural night on the 27th, and I went. It was amazing. They had good food. I loved the bread. They had various types of bread. They had several like cultural groups come up. I know the German students from the GAP program came up, they sang some songs, which their voices were lovely. And they did some dances, and a few other cultural groups did things. The ESL department is forming an ESL student advisory committee, which I think is very interesting. I'm excited to see how that goes. I think since we don't have school tomorrow, Mr. Pritchard, we have parent-teacher meetings from 2 to 7, right? 12 to 7. I knew I had the times wrong, but we also recently, including today, had quite a few representatives from a few colleges like UTK, and today was MTSU visiting to give us more information about their colleges and how to apply and stuff like that. And I think that's all I have. But yeah, thank you for being, yeah, it was a lot.
Are there any questions for Ms. Patel? All right, thank you. We appreciate your update. Are there any other questions on the hearts and minds of the board members? All right, so it is 6:38, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I got that motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned, 6:39.